One of the things we can do to make sure that the particles actually die off early enough is to set an age limit and delete particles at the age limit. Currently the particles just move forever. We'll actually have a couple of conditions that dictate when and where particles die, but our first one we're going to set is just a time limit on how long they can live. So if I look up age, I'll bring in the two compounds that we've used over and over, the delete particle at age limit and the set particle age limit, or delete particle at age limit. And I'll set the age limit on the execute on emit port, and I'll delete particles at age limit on port 2 of the ice tree, or in port 2 of the ice tree. I'm going to set the age limit to be about 6 seconds. So if I hit play, this should be more than enough to keep the particles alive. In fact, they actually start dying off over here, so I can actually restrict their age a little more. Let's take their age down to about 3, so they should die off pretty quickly. You can hear the fire truck or ambulance going by my house there. So now the next trick is to go in and elongate the particles now that we've got them dying off early enough. Again, for this scene I could even have them dying off at 1.5 seconds. And I'll just change the shape of the particles. So under the shape attribute, they're coming out as points right now, but I can change that very quickly, and I want to use a cylindrical shape. With the cylindrical shape, if I take the size up, we emit some very large particles. I want to be able to control the size on a per axis basis. So I'm going to ignore the initial size attribute, and what I'll actually do is set the scale. I'll replace size by 3 separate scalar values. So if I go in and I set the particle scale, actually let's just look up scale, probably be a little bit easier. I'll set the particle scale in a port right after the emission, and right now if I set the scale, let's say to something like 20, I get these tall particles being emitted. If I can actually just press stop, but they're not emitting along the velocity of the particles. We'll change that in a moment. What I actually want to do here is to control the individual values. So if I go in and let's say set the X scale to 2, the Z scale to 2, and the Y scale to 40, I should get particles of the length I desire. And to align them along the velocity of the emission, we'll look for another orientation node that helps us control this. And we're going to align the particles along their velocity vector. So I'm setting their scale, and then I'm making sure I align them along the velocity as well. Alright, so now we're starting to get something that looks a lot better. So you can see that our character still has some aim problems, but that's okay. The bullets aren't traveling nearly as far this time either. They die off fairly early. So I can increase the speed of the bullets as well. And if I increase the speed of the bullets, I'm likely going to want to increase their length. So double their length. They're just a little easier to read. So when I actually render them, I won't be able to see it at this low resolution. Still can't really see it here from this far away, but as soon as I truck in, you can see the individual streams. So our effect's coming along pretty nicely.